intensity is almost unmanageable right now, which is great. And we'll barely make it through Saturday probably, and then start preparing for Ole Miss. We'll start preparing earlier than normal just because of how the team's doing so far, but really like our team.
How much of today had to do with the breather yesterday?
A lot. I mean, it was probably the loudest I've heard our team cheer in 6 years when I told them that there's no practice, and then it went loud and sustained. I mean, I couldn't get them to be quiet, and we had a great day. Coaches too. It's kind of reaches that point in camp, and while not everybody does it, it just from what I saw in practice today, it was already has come back to us in terms of production.
When did you let them know where you were going, and what did you guys do?
They knew. So they knew when I was presenting the itinerary for the day, like I do each morning, and we had kind of staged our academic staff who came into the meeting late, which the players became really tense at that point because I don't respond well when people come into the meeting late or disrupt it, and so there was this edge. And then the academic staff said, "Coach, we think it's best if we have the day off today." And the players then were really worried because they wondered what the academic staff is doing, suggesting anything like that to me. And then we announced we were going to the Provo Beach Resort, and it was mayhem for 5 minutes at least. So fun.
Coach, being an independent, how will you gauge success and mark success?
You know, I think I've had a fairly consistent approach. When you're in a conference, a lot of people measure it by conference championship. I've tried to measure it by reaching our potential as a team, and my biggest frustration a year ago early on was I didn't think we were reaching our potential, and whether we win or lose, sometimes I feel better even on a loss when we play well than a win if we don't. And I have kind of an internal clock now that's developed over time, not so much early in my career. I think 6 years is still early, but more of just, do I think the team's playing to their ability level, and that's what I'm going to do.
Can you talk about Drew Phillips and his situation?
Sure. I'll talk within, I guess, what I'm allowed to talk about. So Drew is someone that struggled in his time here at BYU, just in kind of team policy and consistency. At the end of the spring semester, Drew was notified that he would not have a scholarship renewed, but he'd have a great chance to come back if and when and how he did in his summer school classes to pay his own way for a year. And based on how that year went, he would then have a chance to rejoin us on aid. And there was a letter sent to their home. Anytime we pull scholarships, which we don't do very often, there's a letter sent. I think that was the beginning of July or the end of June. And that's when that was stated. And I'm sorry he's not coming back. And that's probably as specific as I can get.
So unlike someone like O'Neill, the specter of a return is not going to exist with Drew?
It doesn't sound like it. Again, I wasn't following it as closely, other than Brad and others told me last night there was that he had made a statement. Coach Dupay called after visiting with the family and said he's not going to be returning. And the situations aren't identical. O'Neill was given even maybe a harder task. It's been about a year and a half where he's had a similar thing to do, and he really loves this place and wants to be here. And so, again, I'm not judging anything, and my hope is that Drew finds a place that he really likes to be and continues to play ball and get his education.
Any of the other guys, such as Thomas Bryson or Corey Gaines?
No reports yet, or no final status to report to you yet. But all three of those guys, my hope is that they're able to be with us the first day of school. That's our hope, and I think I shared that with you a couple weeks ago. So nothing definitive either way yet with that, but we're hopeful by school that we get them all back. But each of their situations is a little bit different as well.
How nice was it to get Brandon Ogletree back running with the ones and making plays?
Brandon is just, the experience is one thing, but the respect he has from his peers, he's just such a fierce competitor, and he's a good football player, and so there's just a heightened intensity when he's out there. But wherever I look right now on the field, it looks like there's good football players, and the execution is starting to match ability. And I mean, just in the small window I saw today, I was encouraged.
You guys moved Sampson ahead of Preston Hadley at boundary today. Anything going there?
Joe Sampson continues to emerge as just a good football player, and we're trying to find where he's actually going to fit best. And his knowledge of the game, similar to Brian Logan, his knowledge of the game of football and being where the ball is when it's there, certainly he has a lot of work to do in terms of preparation, knowledge of assignments, and conditioning. but it just seems over the past 2 weeks that the number of plays he's making or could make is starting to warrant a little bit more attention.
What does that say? Because historically, guys don't walk into your secondary without spring even and find themselves playing that kind of role.
I think it just means he loves football, and he's trained himself and studied the game to the point where even though the physical preparation and assignments isn't ready yet, and it's not, there's this core knowledge base that's helping him understand the game and putting him in a position to make plays.
There were some guys who were not present today, and that wasn't Kevin, wasn't health reasons. Drain Aliai?
There were 3 players. I asked the team to have some academic things done. There was an announcement made Tuesday where there might be a hold on a transcript or a parking ticket to be, just kind of miscellaneous things to get cleaned up before school. And I gave them till Friday, and so there were 3 players that hadn't done that, and so they'll just be held out from practice or meetings until they've done what I asked them to do.
Dre was one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Was Ziggy?
Yes.
And Benny?
Yes.
Okay. And Alex Caressa, what's up with him?
Alex Caressa is just learning the standards of BYU football, and it's just a small teachable moment for him, nothing serious, and he'll be back with us most likely Monday.
The scrimmage tomorrow, how many plays and will anybody...
Good question. Probably quite a few players to be held out. I'm getting a better gauge for our team watching this without the risk of injury than I would there. So more younger players would be my guess. 50-ish plays, about like it was the first one. Most likely no live special teams work, some scheme work, but without tackling. And again, mostly depth battles, younger players trying to get more experience that might have a role in the first game. But what I've seen, again, in our practices, I'm gauging execution, and I have a pretty good handle, I think, on where we are without having to watch them scrimmage. And so it's changed a little bit. The scrimmage I'm talking about, that format would have been for Wednesday. We've kind of moved that up to Saturday. And so the whole timetable is basically moving either forward or backwards, whichever way you want to look at it.
So we're not going to see a whole full scrimmage like we did last Saturday at all. That'll be the only one then, I guess.
That's probably the only one that you'll see. And with this particular team, and just intuition tells me it's the right thing.
You feel pretty set then?
I feel pretty good.
Just helmets this morning and afternoon today?
This afternoon will be no helmets. Again, just trying to make sure they have their best chance to be ready for tomorrow, hopefully injury-free and fresh. It's mostly run-through format, so it'll be like team segments, but without helmets and without the contact.
As a defensive coordinator, how much do you like coaching kids like Kavanga?
I would much rather coach kids you have to say stop, slow down, not so hard, make a better decision, than go harder, hit him harder, run faster, and Wona starts from that end of the speedometer where it's kind of full blast. So same as Ogletree.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.